Sri Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila Bhai Charanarvind Bhaktividanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Skandiviti Founder His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, Harinam Sankirtana ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Daini Tagore Pimanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Taksurinmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Caitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sadrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakambitam Scha Hai Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Naranarayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Tamashloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Caitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing our study of the essay Gitanagari. We started yesterday by giving a little bit of background to this yet to be known, still unknown largely, a writing of Srila Prabhupada way back, published in 1956. So we started yesterday by reading, just still in the beginning, reading an important letter written by Srila Prabhupada to the then Deputy Minister, Dr. Patel, wherein Srila Prabhupada introduces this concept of the four movements that are related to four aspects of Gandhiji's activities also. So the first of those four, we won't read again what we read yesterday, but just to summarize briefly, Srila Prabhupada is referring to the first of these four movements in the context of the regular, I guess he would be attending those meetings quite regularly, Gandhiji, called Ramdun, not Randun, but Ramdun, Kirtan meetings. People have talk meetings, discussion meetings. They were having Ramdun Kirtan meetings, and Prabhupada was mentioning how this is one of the soundest methods for the culture of devotion to God. And of course, Prabhupada is relating that, will relate that to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan activities. And then the second point he was making, second of four, was the temple entry movement that Gandhiji had started. It means at that time only certain classes of people could enter temples, and he wanted that this be made available for everyone. And Prabhupada coined that as the temple worship movement. So let us continue with the third item, just continuing this letter here. The third item, so I quote here, the third item is to take up the Harijana movement. This movement is the real, in the real sense, a spiritual initiation movement. So there is a third a title, we could say, or name that Prabhupada is giving, a spiritual initiation movement. And this should be organized in such a manner that people all over the world may take interest in it. The Harijana is a word which shall not be used neglectfully as it is done now. In those days, what did Harijan mean?
Harijan?
Yeah.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah. What did it mean at that time?
Dalits. Nothing it meant. He told they were Dalit.
Like outcasts,
yes.
People who were not.
Panchama Bheda, they will say. Panchama Bheda. Untouchables.
Panchama Veda.
Out of the four varnas, fifth class.
Okay. Yeah, correct.
So
means those who are not part of the, not following Vedic culture.
Yeah,
right. Not following Varnasama, actually. Right. Yeah. So they were labeled somehow. I don't know who labeled.
Gandhiji labeled.
Okay, Gandhi himself labeled. So Prabhupada is pointing out that actually the word Harijana is like is a very exalted word, very special word. Harijana means the recognized man of Hari, the personality of Godhead, and thus he, the Harijana, is as important a man as the knight of the king. So Harijana movement should be strengthened more scientifically to turn every person who is now Mayajana. So that's interesting. Either if one is not Harijana, Harijana means actually follower of Hari, means Krishna conscious, means devotee. So if one is not Harijana, one is Mayajana. If one is not conscious of Krishna, then he is in Maya. Yeah. To turn every person who is now Mayajana into a Harijana. The Mayajana is a word which is applicable to a person who is ordinarily engaged in the service of materialistic pursuits. We say, what do we say? Karmi. Karmi is a Mayajana. Yeah. Whereas the Harijana is the person whose main business is to attain perfection of human life, as Mahatma Gandhi did by spiritualistic realization. Prabhupada is very generous and kind. He is praising actually Mahatma Gandhi by recognizes that actually he was in a spiritual pursuit. But as we all know, to be in spiritual, to be endeavoring to advance spiritually is very much desirable and very much commendable to anyone who is doing this. But to achieve that perfectional stage is not so easy. This movement should therefore be conducted under strict disciplinary methods as prescribed by the Mahajana or the Harijana of accredited merit. In such a movement, we shall have full cooperation of the sadhu community in India. So this is like a forerunner to what we now have, let's say, within our society, the congregational preaching, where individuals are trained up systematically, just like we were hearing about Bhaktivriksha. So Bhaktivriksha is a very organized, methodical way of introducing gradually individuals to take up. I mean, Prabhupada's establishing temples was for that purpose as well, of course. So that is a third. The first is, just to recall, what is Prabhupada coining here, the first movement, Sankirtan movement. Sankirtan movement in reference to the holy name as well as transcendental literatures. I mean, that in itself is like huge, you know. I mean, it's and so way back, right? We're in 1949 here. We're reading a letter of 1949, and here we are in 2021, and of course we know what transpired during the years that Prabhupada introduced from 1966, well 65 when he went to begin, 66 by establishing, registrating ISKCON, and then up until his departure, physical departure in 1977, he manifested actually all of what we are talking about here. Sankirtan movement, number one, the holy name in books. Number two, temple worship movement. Prabhupada was in ecstasy whenever Gaura deities were being installed in different temples around the world, in places where people had never heard about the Vedic culture. In Malaysia land, Malaysia country, Prabhupada, when he went to Australia, you might have read, Prabhupada, he brought personally with another devotee, I think, I forget now, he personally took deities of Radha and Krishna. In those days you could do that. They sat them on, with them. Nowadays you cannot do that. And so Prabhupada actually, in the very early days of ISKCON being established in Australia, where totally disconnected with Vedic culture. So after spending a few days, some time there, installing the deities, then upon leaving, what did Prabhupada tell? Prabhupada actually offered a prayer that, my dear Lord, I am leaving you in the hands of mlechas, and I pray that they kindly take care of you, properly. So Prabhupada was taking some risks, but he was fully aware the whole plan of how the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would unfold gradually. That was all in his mind. So that is a third. That was a second temple worship movement, and the third we just read here. Spiritual. How did Prabhupada call it?
Harijana Movement.
Yeah, but in the beginning of this spiritual initiation movement, very interesting that he coins it spiritual initiation, because, to become what is called actually qualified Harijan, not Harijan, Aryan, Arya. Of course, now we have Arya Samaj and other things, but Arya Prabhupada understood, and that's the actual definition, means one who is advanced in culture, right?
Civilized. Very civilized.
Civilized, yeah, civilized. And most civilized means one who are fully realized, fully realizing the essence of tattva, the essence of the absolute truth, which is ultimately Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, understanding the nature of Godhead. So that was a third, and now we will begin the fourth one. See how nicely it is. Now I don't know if that's there in the original letter, but one in circle, 1, 2, 3, and now we are in 4. Because as we will see in the essay, there are such divisions. Actually, when Dr. Ambedkar wrote his famous kind of essay, you could say also, The Annihilation of Caste. Have you read that?
No, I've just gone through. We had for school syllabus.
Oh, is it? In the school syllabus, huh? Wow, that's interesting. You can download it actually, or I can share it with you. Very interesting because he goes point by point. He gives numbers and whatnot. So, in other words, it very systematically presenting. This is what Prabhupada is doing here. So the fourth item, and kindly listen very carefully, because this is the forgotten. This is the forgotten fourth item. The fourth item is to organize the much discussed caste system. Prabhupada is not reluctant to use the word caste, because he understands that actually there is a proper understanding of caste and there is a wrong understanding as well. But caste or divisions, these are words that are natural because they are directly connected, as we will get to understand, with the natural divisions of these modes of material nature. So the fourth item is to organize the much discussed caste system as a solution of natural division of the human beings all over the world, not only in India. Varnasrama is not simply something meant for India, because the modes of material nature are not only to be found in India. Nationalistic division of human race is artificial. This is a very interesting point, because everyone in every country, they identify themselves as being born in that country, etc., which is changing all the time, of course. So nationalistic division of human races is artificial, but scientific division of the caste system, as envisioned in the Bhagavad Gita, is natural. We shall have to pick up Brahmanas and others, not only from the Indian people, but from the peoples of all over the world. So, wow, 1949. That's called a visionary, isn't it? Prabhupada was a visionary. The vitiated caste system, yeah. I don't think we use that word very much nowadays. There's in English language, there is what they call Old English, or what do they?
Archaic.
Archaic, yeah. Actually, even in the U.S., because ultimately people in the U.S. They're from British background. U.S. and America, both U.S. and Canada, were populated by people from England and France, yeah, and therefore one still has in Canada that kind of clash between the French and the English to this day, actually, to the extent that the French, there's a French province. It's called La Belle Province. La Belle Province means beautiful province. Bel means beautiful. And at one time it was just on the verge of actually becoming separated. And they wanted their own country, but it never happened. I don't think it will happen also. So, so Prabhupada is making the point here. The vitiated caste system, vitiated means, what is it?
Vicious.
Yeah, bad, corrupt, impure, contaminated. The vitiated caste system of present India, which actually, by the way, is not something of only yesterday. This vitiated caste system or adulterated caste system goes back centuries, goes back to the time of Lord Buddha. And that is one of the reasons why Buddha rejected let's say Hinduism, or he rejected the Vedas, of course, because the Brahmanas, Kali Yuga, were abusing or misusing the system, and of course at that time, especially in the name of Veda, they were killing unlimitedly all kinds of animals and whatnot. So so the vitiated caste system of present India is never sanctioned by the scriptures, but the caste system is made by God according to quality and work, guna karma, of the subject, and it was never designed for the benefit of accidental birthright. Yeah. Which is, to this day, of course, when the Vedic culture is in place, generally, those who are born in the Brahmana family are Brahmanas, or become Brahmanas, by their, what do you call it? Punya, right? Yeah, because generally one is born according to karma, but it's not even at that time, because we have the story of King Vena, where it's explained, one of the purports Prabhupada explained, how is it that the father of King Vena was actually like a perfect Kshatriya? So how is it that he got a son like Vena? And then the explanation is given that somewhere in some lineage from his wife's side there was something incorrect, and so the end result was Vena was born. Yeah, so that even sometimes, well, Prahlad Maharaj, even in a family of unqualified or demonic family, some saintly person will appear. Or the opposite also, parents wonder, we're both devotees, what happened to our son? In the family of devotees, some demoniac personality. Thus, whatever is made by God cannot be destroyed by man. Very important point. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The principles of dharma, or dharma itself, is created by God, by Krishna, and therefore it cannot be changed by anyone. Destruction of the caste system as contemplated by some exponents. Now we won't open any brackets here. But Prabhupada was aware that there were attempts to do away with the caste system, or with Varnashrama. Yeah. So Prabhupada is making the point here.
The constitution also was not written while. The constitution was not written while this essay was.
Yeah, so I'm saying that even, so I'm saying that Prabhupada was aware that there was this, what do you call it, ongoing conflict that we talked about. Actually, the ongoing conflict was there, especially between two ideologies, Gandhi's ideology and the one that Dr. Ambedkar was promoting, which is the one that Gandhi was promoting was a more traditional culture, traditional understanding based on Shastra, whereas the one being introduced and promoted by Dr. Ambedkar was the more contemporary, more modern, more, we could say westernized, Western ideology. So, thus, whatever is made by God cannot be destroyed by man. Destruction of the caste system, as contemplated by some exponents, is therefore out of question. By the modes of nature, different persons are imbued with different qualities, and the scientific way of division of human society from the qualitative aspect by the caste system is quite natural. But the basic principle of such caste system is to serve the plan of Godhead, and by doing so, the four orders of caste system make headway by the cooperative method. That is referred to by our Vaishnavacharyas as what? As Daiva Varnashrama. Daiva Varnashrama Dharma is that system where everyone is endeavoring to execute the plan of Godhead, and therefore they work closely together. When such spiritual progress is definitely made, the materialistic progress is automatically affected as a matter of course. That makes a real classless, there you go, classless society. So Prabhupada's fourth movement is referred to as the classless society movement, which means the four avarnas and the four ashramas. And Prabhupada concludes here, the above fourfold Gandhi movements, if done in an organized scientific way, supported by all the authentic scriptures of all religiosities, will bring in that tranquility of peace, respite of all harshness or devoid, and bitterness of the present world, which we have longed for till now. So this is a rather, important letter, which is not known to actually many, and therefore, especially in the context of this essay of Gitanagari. So we will. We're close to beginning the essay. We have not actually started yet. And the essay is actually divided into what is called part 1 and part 2. And it seems, I'm not sure if someone has done a very in-depth study or research on this, but it seems that there was some portion is lost. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to. So before beginning the essay, I want to give I want to read this introduction. That I wrote some time back to kind of put things in perspective here. So this is introduction. Second, we could say second introduction. The first introduction was this letter. So the first introduction was Prabhupada's own introduction by way of this letter to Dr. Patel. Okay, second introduction, so to speak, or forward. Actually, I'm sorry, yeah. I wrote that as a forward to the essay on Gitanagari. And at that time, I had not found the original mantra for Surabhyaya Namaha. So we were using, because some people actually use Om Sri Surabhyaya Namaha. But there's reference in the Shastra, which we found, Om Surabhyaya Namaha. That's why we have both versions. Anyway, at that time, it was Om Sri Surabhyaya Namaha, Om Sri Gurave Namaha. The work, essay on Gitanagari, remains somewhat unknown to most devotees within the ISKCON society. If not the title, at least the contents, including many of its leaders. It is amazing that such an important document has not yet been published in a book format since its first appearance in the 1956 Back to Godhead magazine, written by Goswami Abhay Charan Bhaktividanta. Prabhupada's name at that time was, he had started to use Bhaktivedanta because that title had been given to him. Later to be known as A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. What most devotees are unaware of, where are we here? Is that the main theme found in this essay was outlined practically verbatim in an earlier letter, in an even earlier letter composed by Srila Prabhupada in the year 1949, close to 60, 70 years ago, which we have read both yesterday and today. Now, what is even more astonishing is that a typing error that occurred in the 1956 Back to Godhead publication. I'm not sure exactly where that typing error actually occurred. It might have occurred when devotees, copied it or wrote it. Was repeated again when the article was transferred to the Veda base folio, or maybe it happened as it was transferred. To this day, even now, that error is there actually. To this day, it remains undetected. This error may be considered as monumental when we consider that the result of this omission has kept one of the most significant sections of the work in relative darkness, concealed as it were, due to two segments being merged in one. We will identify this oversight as we introduce the essay. Why does the essay on Gitanagari deserve so much attention? There are many reasons. One is that the essay heralds, as it is, what the author would be implementing. The author means Srila Prabhupada. What he would be implementing in a foreign country some 10 years later. So Back to Godhead, 1956, 10 years later, Prabhupada goes to America. He goes in 1965, but 10 years later, 1966, he registers. When he formally registered the International Society, for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON in New York City. The essay speaks of 4 movements or waves which are meant to flood the world with the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the great social and spiritual reformer of the 15th century, who introduced the bhakti cult. So Lord Chaitanya is actually referred by historians as a great social reformer, which is something important, especially in the context of varnashram, 3 points of interest in this regard. The first is that these 4 movements are interconnected and meant to complement one another. It means if one is missing, then the whole mission becomes jeopardized as it remains incomplete. It's just like if you have a machine and you have 4 parts, one of the parts is missing, then your machine is not functioning properly. This becomes most critical when we consider the second point, which is the printing error yet to be corrected in identifying these 4 movements. This will become clear in the publishing of this book, whenever it will happen, where we have edited that section by adding section D. Because in the original text we have A, B, and C. And the D part is merged with the C part. So unless one is somewhat attentive, one will just go by and not notice that.
Accidental or?
I have no idea. I just know that that D is not there. So I put the D in there. The D, see, A is referring to Sankirtan movement. B is referring to deity worship movement. C is referring to spiritual initiation movement. There's no D. So when Prabhupada refers to caste, people who read it assume that it's part of C.
How we found out that it was missing?
Anyone who reads it with attention, I found out about it because I read the 1949 letter. The 1949 letter goes into 1, 2, 3, 4. Very clearly makes that differentiation, isn't it? Later on, when you read the Gitanagari essay, you'll see that the D is not there. In the folio, you have folio?
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll see that the D is not there. So therefore, if one is not attentive, if one is not looking for something, he'll just kind of like skip it. So I'm just saying that it's very important to have that D which identifies the 4th movement, which is Varnashram.
Some people may say then later Prabhupada omitted D.
No. No, because it is, as I mentioned, as I tried to explain, the 1949 letter uses the same terminology. And in that letter, Prabhupada makes that division. 1, 2, 3, 4. A, B, C, D. But, it happens all the time, or very often, that whenever we print something, some grammar, some punctuation, some error, isn't it? That's why editing is important.
The original copy is there. They put PBT somebody.
I don't know. I only have like the the folio. Now where is the original material that went into the folio? That's somewhere, probably in America, I guess. I'm sure it's with the, that would be interesting. You should make a note of this, mental note. Later on you can write it down. We have what is called the Bhaktividanta Archives. The Bhaktividanta Archives are the one, they're in California, not California, what is it? They're based on the East Coast, actually. California is on the West Coast. So the Bhaktivedanta Archives, the person who's been overseeing, his name is Ekanath, Prabhupada disciple, he probably could look into that. You should write to him, yeah. Because what happened is that when we started our ministry, IDVM, 2009, naturally we were interested in material related to Varnashram. Then maybe within 1 or 2 years after IDVM was established, we came to know that there was this book speaking about Varnashram. Many hundreds of copies were just lying there. They were not being sold. It was not at all a bestseller. At the Bhaktivedanta Archives in Carolina, California, North Carolina. In North Carolina, we have a farm project that is called Prabhupada Village. So in that Prabhupada Village is used to be, I think it's still there. Things happen, change. But I visited that community quite some years back, mostly all Prabhupada disciples. So the Bhaktivedanta Archives is located there. And they're the ones who have been upgrading and expanding the folio. Tremendous service, to the Vaishnavas by providing all this information. And so we ended up, our ministry ended up, we purchased all of those books. We completely, emptied their go down in terms of speaking about Varnashram. Then we had to reprint again because we sold it all out. But because they are into, finding old letters of Prabhupada, sometimes devotees will find a letter or they will keep, and then they will finally surrender that letter to the archives so that not only they get the benefit of that letter, but all the devotees. So over the years they have added material. So that would be an interesting question. Can you show us a copy of the original text that you have? It's one of two things. Either Prabhupada did not omit the D, or when devotees copied it to the folio, whoever was writing just spaced out and forgot the D. Or when it was printed in the Back to Godhead magazine way back. That's something else you can because I think they've taken photos of Back to Godhead, right? Prabhupada had requested devotees actually to come to India, and they did, from the BBT, to take so many pictures of old books and like that, so much material. So that probably would be the best thing to do. And I think it's available to look at the pictures, photos of those Back to Godhead, and then that 1956. Okay, what does it look like? But definitely in the folio, that D is not there. So even, for example, it's not there in the original that was printed in 1956. Then it could have well been a typing mistake from the editor's side, So, anyways, let's just finish this introduction here. Otherwise, So this becomes most critical when we consider the second point, which is the printing error yet to be corrected. This will become clear in the publishing of this book when it happens, where we have edited that section by adding D, which introduces this otherwise merged fourth movement referring to the classless society or Varnashrama Dharma. You see, we've been discussing this point for the last few minutes. Unless one takes a little time to understand, okay, what's the deal here? What's the problem? What's the issue? And very often we kind of skip over things. But this is like something that cannot be skipped over. It's too important. In order to give more credibility to this correction, we have chosen to add the 1949 letter written by Honorable Sardar Dr. Ballabhji Patel, Deputy Prime Minister to the Government of India, which essentially outlines the same themes which we have read yesterday and today. The third point of interest is the clear references by Srila Prabhupada to some of Gandhi's Vedic concepts, one of those being brought out again and again by Srila Prabhupada when speaking about Gandhi's ideas on village organization. And to me, village organization is should be of special significance for us, because village organization means the Vedic standard of what Vedic culture is about. It means agrarian culture. As opposed to what is taking place around the world today, where we are trying, where it is being planned, to the whole urbanization which is taking place for all kinds of ill-conceived reasons, actually, or non-Vedic reasons. Because the more we become urbanized, the more we cut our ties with what is more natural, more simple, more scientific also. The more we become urbanized, the more we allow ourselves to become artificial in the way we live. And that has all kinds of repercussions in our individual personal lives, in our relationship with others, in our connection with nature, isn't it? And also in our what is meant to be primary goal and objective of life, which is, endeavoring for self-realization. The more we become urbanized, the more we become materialistic. The more we become urbanized, the more we become dependent, isn't it? So the more it means, basically, the more we become urbanized, the more we become unnatural. And therefore, Prabhupada makes a very important statement that the more we utilize the material, machines and gadgets of today, the more difficult it becomes for us to actually take up to spiritual life. Yeah. So let's just finish this letter here. Yes, village organization, that's a whole topic in itself. At a time when our ISKCON society is struggling hard to meet the challenge of an ever-increasing complex and artificial society based on utopian ideals of globalization, liberalism, and unending consumerism, one which is being recognized more and more by some leading intellectuals and educationalists and social scientists and government organizations, NGOs, as being unsustainable, sociologically and ecologically life-threatening, and thus inertly and inevitably destructive, putting in peril the very existence of this planet. This short essay cuts through the speculative plans and so-called remedies of modern thinkers to present the gist of what an ideal society and lifestyle should be, which means localized and self-governed communities, villages, based on the perennial teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Gitanagari, based on Bhagavad Gita, the essence of the most ancient wisdom, the Vedic scriptures. Well, actually, I think we'll save the rest because there's still quite a few paragraphs in this second, in the foreword, so we'll save that for tomorrow. But I think it becomes more clear, when we understand and begin to see Prabhupada's vision in both the essay, and which was again brought out, introduced in the 1949 letter, because it's directly connected with the whole attempt of Srila Prabhupada to introduce Krishna consciousness. And just to finish on this point, when we neglect this D, this fourth movement, when we neglect this idea of classless society, then it's like big time we are missing out. We are not understanding the mission. We can very clearly categorize that as a major deviation. It's a major deviation, So therefore, the importance of reading this particular essay, Gitanagari, when I was giving the Vedic sociology course. Did you take that course? Yeah. So, those were two important books of reference, Gitanagari, and then a follow-up to that, when Prabhupada came to the West, all of his references, quotes, that are found in the book speaking about Varnashram. So speaking about Varnashram, we could say is an extension of the same ideas that Prabhupada presented, in a very simple and brief manner. Yeah. So any thoughts or questions on this? Okay. Yeah. No, because it's quite clear. Yeah. So we will close for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Gauda Pimanandi.